I'm Kate.
I'm Megan.
And we're
Cooking with the Bells! Gets better every time, I think.
I agree. Alright, so today we are going to be making some peach tea to go with our food. And we'll talk more about the food after we have our drinks, because we have lots of random family stories to go with this food. So to make peach tea, I do it pretty simple, especially since I can't readily find peaches in my area, even when they are in season. So I buy peach syrup. You could buy any brand that you want. And then this is roughly a 16-ounce glass. So I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons in, roughly.
And remember, personal preference. So if you prefer more of a peach flavor, then use more.
Yes.
And also, just remember when you're looking at your syrup, keep in mind if it's like a already sweetened or a sugar-free syrup, or just how much sugar it has in it, because our tea is actually
sweet tea. We're Southern Belles. We like our sweet tea.
Bells. But so just keeping that in mind, you might want to make an unsweet tea if you don't like an overly sugary peach tea.
And like always, in the description below, there will be a link to the recipe on our website, and we'll also have a batch so you can make a full gallon of peach tea instead of just a glass. But it's the exact same process.
And I think it works out well doing it this way if you have family members who don't like fruity flavored drinks. My 10-month-old is hanging out with us today, being the director, so you're going to hear her in the background. Just fair warning. But like I was saying, I think this works out well, especially because if you have different flavored syrups, you can also follow, a similar recipe.
Which is what my family does. My dad really likes peach. My mom really likes raspberry. My brother prefers no fruit flavors, so we make a big batch of tea, and then we just basically have like a make-your-own tea bar. Like, we have all the syrup set out, the glasses, and the tea, and then you kind of make whatever tea that you want.
Yeah, and you can also remember on our earlier episode where we made the Arnold Palmer's.
Yes.
So, but cheers. It's perfect.
Yes.
Perfect for
so good
a summer day. And it goes perfect with our recipe, as peach teas and flavored teas, I think, are like a comfort thing for us.
Yes.
Because our families have always done it. But also, what is a comfort food to us? I think this has been at multiple birthday celebrations over the years.
It's my absolute favorite, so it's always at my birthday.
And when Kate comes home from college, it was something that her mom always made, which I loved going over there and having these. They are PorkyPines.
Don't worry, we didn't go shoot a porcupine. They're just called PorkyPines.
So, why are they called PorkyPines, and what is the family story behind them?
Alright, so these are called PorkyPines. So they're essentially a large meatball that we will show you how to season up well. We use ground beef. We're currently using 80/20, but you can, for this particular recipe, you can use any that you want. We've used 93.7. We've actually used turkey meat, because sometimes turkey meat's cheaper than ground beef.
And sometimes it's been easier to find.
Yes.
So we have a pound already in here with a half cup of rice.
Yes. So what makes these PorkyPines instead of meatball is you're going to form the large meatball. We're going to cook them in a skillet, which I'll show you. But then the rice that we've put in them will cook, and it kind of starts to poke out of the meatball like a little porcupine.
Adorable.
Now, in my family, we don't put the rice in it anymore if my parents are eating, because my mom, way back when, made this for my dad right after they had just gotten married. They'd been married maybe 2 months. And she put the rice in it. She was super proud. She's like, look, I made us this lovely dinner. And then my dad looks at it and was like, and I'm so sorry. I can't eat this. And she, she's like, why? Like, does he have an allergy that I somehow didn't know about before we got married? Is there, what's happening? He goes, the rice looks like maggots. And ever since then, my parents can't see rice in the meatballs, or they're just like, nope, I'm good, I'm done. So you can leave the rice out if you don't want it. It's still very tasty.
But that has not affected us any.
Nope.
So, we have our 1 pound ground beef, half a cup of rice. We are going to add in some breadcrumbs. We're currently using panko breadcrumbs, but of course you can use some crushed up saltine crackers, or you can try out some oatmeal. If you're just really wanting to
add the binder in that the bread is. You can also crumble your own bread and just leave it out on the counter overnight for it to dry. And we're probably going to put about half a cup. Yeah.
Mix that in. And then I am going to go ahead and add in my seasonings. We're using onion powder today. It's really to preference, but I probably used about a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of garlic powder. And we're going to actually be using a blend of frozen vegetables that's chopped onion, bell pepper, and celery. So I know I just used onion powder, and then I'm going to use onion, but I feel like that onion powder just adds like an extra layer dimension of like a fresh kind of onion.
Yes, especially since we're not marinating this meat or doing it the night before to put it in the fridge, which you can 100% do. But since we tend to do it, put it on the stove, this is a lot faster way to just get that extra punch of flavor.
And so I just added also a little bit of paprika, just because that's something that we personally like. Woo-hoo. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of salt. And Kate's going to help me out with that while I get this pepper open, because I struggle all the time. Of course, I say it and then I automatically get it open. So I'm just going to add a little pepper. We like pepper here, so it's probably going to be a generous amount, but
about half a tablespoon is, I think, what my parents prefer, roughly. This is very much a family recipe, so it is very much a how much you feel. If you don't have onion powder, you don't have to put it in there. It'll be fine. If you have a seasoning you really like with your ground beef, put it in. It'll be great.
This is Worcestershire sauce.
You're
I'm
not
surprised I could say
discussing
that.
how we say it, because it will get mispronounced many times on this show.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, it'll only come out correctly a handful of times.
And I just used a couple dashes. I'm probably overly generous with it because I really like the flavor.
Yes.
I know some people aren't fans. So you could obviously omit it if you don't like it. And it will just turn out just fine. And so just incorporating still, I'm going to go ahead and put on some gloves because I'm about to crack an egg, and we're outside without the water access, so I'm a little concerned about contamination and being food safe. So,
and this is something fairly easy to do with gloves on. So,
and that cracked beautifully. If you wouldn't mind, just so I could throw that away. Then I'm gonna mix
secret trash can.
Yes. Mixing in our egg, and it also acts as another binder, just like our breadcrumbs.
Grab these so I can sprinkle them in for you when you're ready.
I appreciate that.
And if you don't have breadcrumbs or you don't have an egg, you can always just omit one and add a little extra the other. So add an extra egg if you don't have breadcrumbs. Add probably 2/3 a cup of breadcrumbs if you don't have an egg, and it'll be fine.
And then talking about these vegetables, they are frozen, and we're just adding them directly from frozen. It's that moisture in there is just going to help the rice cook as they kind of thaw when they're cooking. But you can use fresh, but we're easy here.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving it some good mixing.
We use probably about half of that bag, which is a 10-ounce bag, and we used roughly half. It was about 2/3 to a cup of vegetables. But again, if you mix this up and you're like, I want more vegetables, you can always put more in and mix more in.
Yep, so I just about got those combined.
While she finishes combining those, I'm going to go ahead and get our skillet preheating on our stove. We're just going to light our stove. Thank goodness I put I nearly didn't put our wind guard up, and then I was like, the wind's picking up.
So this would be an excellent recipe to have out while you're camping if you do have a camp stove. Especially if you're camping in like the winter or a cool spring night or even fall. It's just going to be nice and warm and toasty. Right. So I'm just have my heat turned up pretty high right now just to get through. As you can see, we're using a cast iron skillet. So just so when we put the meatballs in, it'll get just a small sear on the bottom, which we really like. And then, even though my cast iron is fairly well seasoned, I always like to put a drop of oil in the bottom just to be safe. You can use any skillet you have on hand to do this. It does not matter at all. That should be good. Alright, I'm just going to swirl that drop of oil I put in. It's nice and hot. Put this here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and drop the ones that I have pre-formed in.
And we go around the skillet, and then if you still have more, you can put like a meatball or two in the middle.
And you want them to be pretty uniform in size just so that you don't have overcooked and undercooked and
Yeah, for
all that mess.
And while we all like our steaks at different rates of doneness, ground meat should always be well done unless you very much trust your butcher and their cleanliness whenever they're grinding meat. We have a little tester.
I have a little baby.
We always call our baby our sampler. It'll get a little overdone with the rest of them, but you can still taste it for some good flavor. And that's what we get to nibble on.
And I am just going to move that aside and take off my gloves here.
So I'm going to move this over to our stove, and then we'll keep our stove on roughly medium heat. But depending on how hot it gets, you might need to turn your stove down to low or even crank it up a little. So now that the porcupines are in here, I have some water, and I'm just going to pour the water in until it's halfway up the porcupine meatballs. So, and make a giant mess all over the table. That's okay.
This is outside cooking.
That's a little more. There we go. Almost used all of it with that spill. And then we're going to get ketchup. Any ketchup you like, any one that you prefer. And then you're just going to put a giant squirt of ketchup on top of each porcupine. I do not have a measurement for this. This is 100% to taste. Because we literally just go and cover the tops in a good squirt of ketchup.
Let me let y'all in on a little secret. I just showed Kate my ketchup stash where I have 12 bottles of ketchup. Some might call that excessive, but we go through it pretty quick.
Yes.
So, as you can see, we used quite a bit, and honestly, even after these are cooked, I'm still going to top mine with even more ketchup probably, so.
And then I just put a squirt, and you saw like a single like squirt of ketchup into the water, just because that tomato ketchupiness will kind of meld with the water. And
Some
make it a
people
little more flavor.
use tomato soup or tomato sauce in theirs, which is completely up to you if you don't like the sweet taste of ketchup, but I think we are a ketchup family, so that's what we go with.
So now I'm just going to put the lid on. Make sure that heat's still up. And then we just kind of let these cook away. They take normally in our household about 30 minutes. But like I said, check in on them. You have that little tester to kind of cut open and just kind of
See where
check
it's
and
at.
make sure that things are getting well done. And the real nice thing about these is they are a home recipe, so there's no shame in if you're like, I'm not 100% sure, you cut one open and it's not done, just throw it back on the stove. It's not going to hurt it.
Right, and I mean, like I said, this is going to vary on the size of the porcupine that you make, whether you're using frozen vegetables or fresh vegetables, just because those frozen vegetables are going to cool down the meat more before you put them in the pan. So it's
Bring
really
your
going to
meat up to room temperature before you cook it. I mean, we're very easy last minute-ish people, so it's very much a pull everything out of the fridge and move on.
So, well, I guess we will see you guys back here in about
30
minutes. Bye.
Bye. All right, and we're back. Our porcupines have been on the stove for about 30 minutes. I think we're closer to about 25 for ours actually, but that's okay. They are done.
And they're smelling great.
So I'm just gonna cut my fire and be very careful because these are hot, obviously. Just take this lid off. I'm gonna put the lid over here just because.
That smells divine. Like, just home.
Yes. And we were talking about it. I came out, I checked on the porcupines, and the smell hit me, and I was like, that's what I usually eat with them. I usually have mashed potatoes, and then this little, like, grease gravy that gets made in the bottom of the pan from all the juices. Pour those right on top of your mashed potatoes. So good.
All right. So,
All right. So we have our little sampler in the middle. That's what we're going to pull out. Just, whoop. I broke him in half, guys. It's okay.
all the better to look and check and make sure it's done. It's all right.
Yeah. Plus, this way we have our two halves.
Oh, that's perfect. And of course,
then-
I got the side with more ketchup.
I mean, I know her well. I'm going to take some of this gravy on top of each one.
Perfect.
This is going to make a great dinner tonight.
It will. Faux chef.
All right.
And I'm just like making a hot mess over here, trying to get like a bite of everything.
Oh, food damn. It just tastes like home for me. This was.
Excuse us
So
while we
good.
eat all of this.
I think we might need something else for dinner for the family. I think we're going to eat this whole plate.
Shh, don't tell them what we made today.
That's mine. Oh. I did the same thing.
Oopsie.
If you get a bottom piece from it sitting over the flame against the skillet, it just has like a nice caramelized crust on it. And it's so good.
And it also goes great with not only mashed potatoes, but like a nice homemade creamed corn or some sauteed
So good.
spinach or roasted vegetables. I mean, it just goes with like everything.
Yes. And it's, yeah. And it's easy. Like y'all saw, like, you mix up meat, make some meatballs, throw it on the stove for 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Done.
I mean, you could easily make that on a weekday.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I think that's it for now because we're about to dig into another one of these.
For sure. I'm not sharing this time.
No. If you liked this video, make sure to hit the like button below.
And maybe think about subscribing to our channel to see more from us. You can also find the link to this recipe and the link to our tea below. It'll take you to our website, so go check that out. And I guess we'll see you next time. Bye!